Dennis Wrigley Ministries, a better way, unity, renewal and healing.
Over the past 50 years, we have seen something in our culture which is very disturbing. We have seen not just the sexualization of almost every part of our social life, but increasingly we have seen the sexualizing of our children. What do I mean by this? Well, it's nothing new that commercial interests exploit sex to sell products. It's nothing new that the media have increasingly endeavored to produce images and stories and ideas which not only give a distorted understanding of the relationship between men and women, the sexual relationship, but which positively cause damage. And for that reason, I have no hesitation whatsoever in saying that today we are seeing unleashed on our culture very evil and destructive forces, and we need to recognize them before it's too late. The advertising industry has ruthlessly exploited sex. The entertainment industry has embraced it and vulgarized it. And day by day, night by night, on television programs, we see the sheer brutality of dispensing with decent relationships between men and women. We've reached the point where extreme libertarians who wield a lot of power now in our land are saying we must have the right to view whatever we want. And so they put the right for them to see pornography, which is degrading, before the right of children to be protected from that monstrous intrusion in their lives. So adults are putting themselves before children, and adults are unleashing upon children something so aggressively ugly and degrading that we all, if we tolerate it, will stand before history as guilty. Increasingly, television programs present, for example, sexual relationships in terms of sleeping around as quite normal. That's fed in through soaps and through other propaganda items into the minds of young children and teenagers. Only last night on television, one of the major companies depicted sexual intercourse at just 2 or 3 minutes after 9, when it would be seen by thousands of children. But they couldn't care less. They want to continue that drive towards sex. The language has been sexualized. The F word is now treated as normal. And what was originally considered as immoral and wrong is now presented as normal and acceptable. Now, firstly, the old argument that pornography is amusing and harmless has been blown out of the water. We now know that very many people are not only destroyed by pornography on the one hand, but others are addicted to it, and it's ruining their lives. We've got ample evidence in the Maranatha community over 20 years of the tremendous damage which pornography does to society. It's real. Patterns of behavior are presented and then replicated. It used to be said that television reflected society. That's not true any longer. Television projects onto society the ideas of those who produce the shows. Well, how does this now affect children? Well, firstly, children are seeing it. But secondly, children are participating in it. Yes, we've now reached the stage in our civilization where thousands upon thousands of adults watch children being assaulted sexually for their own depraved amusement and gratification. They actually enjoy seeing a child being tortured. They actually enjoy seeing a child being destroyed. And that is acceptable, and that is available in the minds right across our continent and right across the world. And everyone is now wringing their hands and saying, oh dear, what should we do? We now know that this is an evil influence. And it started with the acceptance of what was called harmless pornography. And now it's being replicated by youngsters who see it on their own phones. Sexting. Children can now go on the internet and learn how to send sexual messages, just as we now give them the opportunity to learn how to kill themselves, and some do. This is the nature of the crisis which is upon us. Tens of thousands of new pornographic sites are being unleashed on the internet year by year. And the result of this is there for all to see. There have been murders very recently by people addicted to child pornography. Where do we fit into this? Those of us who are not involved in that sordid activity. Well, we're tolerating things being done to our children which would have caused an outrage 50 years ago. For example, the normal inhibitions that a child has to protect itself has been swept on one side. And in many of our so-called sex education courses, they're introduced to abnormal and unnatural sexual behavior, even at primary school level. This cannot be right. This cannot be right. Again, adult organizations, ostensibly claiming to stand for public sexual health, whatever that means, are distributing condoms to children and young people. Adults saying, here you are, get on with it. Adults are producing pamphlets, even within the NHS, we have them in our possession, saying to children, have fun. Don't forget to take your condom to the party tonight. Adults are doing this to children. Now, what's the consequence of this? Well, very simply. Children are having sex with children. Do you believe this is right? Do you believe this should be encouraged? Because it is being encouraged. Children are not only having intercourse, but children are bearing children. The number of pregnancies of young girls as young as 12 and 11 has risen over the years. And if they are having sexual relationships, what are we seeing? That children are now, and young people, contracting sexually transmitted diseases on a huge scale. Huge scale. Young teenage girls who are engaged in sexual activity, a very high proportion now are contracting sexually transmitted diseases. And now we're discovering that children are having abortions. Of course, we've led them into a society which sees abortion as a form of contraceptive. And so young girls are told, oh, it's only a little thing, we'll get rid of it. They're not told that it's a trauma which will be with them for their life. Again, adults telling lies to children and young people. And so we're finding that children are growing up into adults who cannot sustain or even establish strong, healthy relationships. This is in the context of a society which has decided to turn its back on marriage. And the undermining of the marriage-based family is at the root of a very high proportion of our social troubles today. Go on the streets, meet the lads and the gangs. They have their leaders, their godfathers, significantly. Go to their homes, and you'll find no live-in father. You find women in inner city areas fathering children from 3, 4, 5 different fathers. The children are confused. The children have no sense of identity. The children have no sense of permanence of family life. Is it any wonder that this nation is full of tens of thousands of children at risk on this register in care there? Over 80,000 children, very young children, are suffering acute clinical depression right now. When will we awaken to the fact that this secular experiment of the last 50 years has been a total and complete failure? When will our consciences be aroused to say to these people, take your dirty hands off our children? If you think that's strong language, go to the New Testament. Jesus said, whoever harms one of the least of my little ones, into the water with a stone around their neck. Jesus was angry. You should be angry when children are being treated in this way. And we've got to go to the politicians, and we've got to go to the national leaders, and we've got to say, enough is enough. There are things which can be done. We can point them in a better direction, but there's got to be an assault, and there's got to be a real battle with these evil forces. And they are there. They are there in our television companies. They're there in our publishing houses. They're there on the internet. And I believe this is nothing to do with wagging a finger of judgment. It's everything to do with weeping for those whose lives have been messed up. I've met many girls who are very bitter and angry at what they've been taught in sex education classes in schools. Having sex, being coerced into sex, and then regretting sex. And this had a bearing on their later married life. Many other young boys who've been playing around and seeing girls as playthings, and have been taught that the sex act is not an act to create life. It's just fun of no significance. They are taught that. These boys, when they get to their 20s and 30s, are very angry with the people who've done this to them and messed up their lives very often. And so, if I sound angry, yes, I am angry. I hope it's a righteous anger. But more than that, it's rooted in the tears when I see real pain, when I see damaged families. When are we going to face up to the fact that we've got it wrong? When are we going to have a head-on assault against pornography of any kind? When are we going to rise up and protect our children? They need your help now. They need your prayers now. If you care about children, come and walk with us in the Maranatha community. We've placed before Parliament the evidence of what we're doing to our children repeatedly. Repeatedly, we are urging people to come together and strengthen the family, strengthen the marriage-based family. Above all, give children a new sense of security and purpose in life. If we don't do anything, I believe we'll be under the judgment of history. And many would say, under the judgment of Almighty God. God bless our children.
Dennis Wrigley Ministries, a better way, unity, renewal and healing. Thank you for watching.